We all right. What's up, good people? Happy Sunday. Here with my crew again, a WNBA State of Mind, where we mainly discuss basketball, but we love other sports today. We got some hot topics. We're going to talk about the WNBA and the NBA, what's hot, what's not, trades and new contracts and buyouts and sales and just you know people still getting stuck in flights and just a host of things, all the way to Ice Cube. So fellas, thanks for coming on to the show on Sunday. We got a lot of topics, but first up, let's talk about the NBA because there's so many things that are going on, and I want to pick your brains. I want to know which players and teams you think got the best deals and why. We have, as we shared information the last couple of days, Van Fleet to the Rockets, 3 year, 130 million. Kyrie in Dallas, 3 year, 126 million. Austin Reeves stays in LA for 4 years, 56 mil. Draymond Green stays 4 years, 100 mil. We could talk about that when that leads to talking about Jordan Poole's over there in Washington. That leads me to Kuzma, 4 year, 102 mil. Uh, then we get to your boy Jeremy Grant, who you talked about, Dom, who was going to get shopped around, but they decided to stick with him, gave him a 5 year, 160 million dollar deal in Portland. And then you got Dylan Brooks. Okay. Houston looks like they're shaping up. Dylan Brooks, 4 year, 80 mil. People really didn't care about that whole situation that was going on. They still picked him up anyway. Westbrook, no surprise staying with the Clippers, but a 2 year deal, 8 million. That's kind of low to me. D. Russell, 2 years, stays in LA for 87 mil. It's a lot of money. The first 2 days of, when a market opened up, I think it was like $1.2 billion in just signing deals the first day. Talk to me, fellas.
Well, I think as far as the players, my top three that got the best deals was Draymond, 4 years, 100 million, and you staying with the Warriors. And then I liked the Van Fleet, and Kyrie. They making, 43 and 42 a year respectively. You know, good contracts. Van Fleet gets to be the man on his team because Houston's building up. And over in Dallas, Kyrie has, Luca, and they're gonna see what they're gonna do. Are they pretenders or contenders? So I like those three deals. And as far as on the team side, I believe, I gotta go with the Lakers, my team. They usually try to go for somebody big, but they got all the roles they needed and at a bargain. I feel Austin Reeves, I think he could have got more money. D'Angelo as well, but they just kept the band together. So I think that team did the best. I have some more, but I'll let Dom go and see what he has to say.
I'm gonna say until we know where Dame Lillard ends up, we don't really know, who's had the best off season because that is going to change a lot. Didn't think it was gonna happen, but hey, here we are. Scoot Henderson is the real deal. The Houston Rockets, though, they may steal that spot. I love, what that young roster is, what they're gonna become, the culture that's being built over in Houston. In a couple of years, they're gonna be a problem. They're gonna be a true problem. Van Bleep is only 29 years old. He's in his prime. You pair him with a young Jalen Green who's learning the league still, Porter Jr., Jayshawn Tate, Tyree Edson, Jocelyn Dale at the center spot. Like he's going to be a sneaky center that's going to turn a lot of heads this year. You know, he came from Australia, you know, the Australian League, but I mean, he had a wonderful career in college. He was someone over at Sports Talk 2319 that we watched a lot because we knew he was a pro. So I'm definitely saying the Houston Rockets, you know, as of right now, until we find out where Dame goes, they're leading the charge. And you got to give your hats off to also, you know, the Golden State Warriors for retaining Draymond and retaining, you know, their big three.
Well, I mean, I just got to question you. You know, you gave Houston over the Lakers, who went to the Western Conference Finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they kept their core intact, you know, from that team, you know, because a lot of those players they got from trades, right? During the trade deadline. Now they kept them intact, you know, bringing them back for hopefully a whole full season to see what they're going to do,
Mm-hmm.
and for cheap, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Palinka did a great job, but Palinka did not fill one of their greatest needs. He bought Gabe Vincent in, but that's not the facilitator that you need with this group. As we know, LeBron, ageless wonder, but you can't keep putting all those duties on that man.
I'll give you that.
But I love what the Lakers have done. They had a really good offseason. Sneaky. Cam Reddish, you know how we feel about Cam over at Sports Talk 2319. Yeah, most improved player award. I'm penciling him in right now. He's gonna get it.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I love watching him play. I love watching him develop. You know, he's a slasher. You know, on anybody that played the same position that I do, you know, I kind of give him some kudos, but I really do. I love his athleticism. He's starting to develop that three. And so once he gets, you know, once he really develops that three, he's gonna be lethal. He's hitting it, you know, at this
Mm-hmm.
point, but it's like it's not, you know, truly consistent as it could be. But once he gets there and he starts to understand the X's and O's a little better, I think that he's
Yeah.
gonna be a great player. I really do. He's one of those players that I, you know, on my watch list. You know, so what do you guys think about, you know, Jordan Poole to Washington? Does that make the team more competitive with now with Kuzma, them signing a deal with Kuzma? You know, they bring in Jordan Poole, and they also have Porzingis, who was really coming into his own this year.
Well, they lost Porzingis.
Yeah, they lost it.
Lost him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the first trade they made to he's in Boston now.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
They did it
So
so early that I completely forgot about that because
yeah,
we talked about that. Man, wow. Yeah,
yeah.
wow.
Dude,
Wow. 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 You know, and I
Wizards
really
are in
dig
struggle.
Boston anyway, you know, and I'm a Jay Tatum and Jay
Mm-hmm.
Brown and I love them boys over there, Ad Porzingis over there. You know, we talked about, being sorry about the fact that Smart left, but Memphis is trying to do a good thing over there as well. So, everybody you can see people are really the general managers, and the front offices have been very, very busy, in the NBA over the past couple of weeks. And so, with the summer league, going on right now, I just I can't wait to see what happens and how these teams, turn out. Like I'm a NBA TV head, and so I used to love, how when NBA TV first came around, first established themselves, the LA Lakers were one of the first teams that showed their practice,
Mm-hmm.
in
Hmm.
their training, and so like I was like, always, just stuck on it. So I get to see some different drills that I can incorporate, when I'm working out people and stuff like that. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to it. This season is going to be great, which leads me to like some disappointing news that I heard, or that I've read, and you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind. If you're just tuning in, I got my boy Don Dada Wilford on here, and I also got my nephew Vid Bugs Lamonte over there in the house. We chopping it up about the NBA at this point. We're gonna get to the WNBA. Before we get there, Um, just want to talk about this one topic, and we were talking about this off the cuff. Ice Cube was on, you know, on the internet, and he has a pretty big audience, and I really do love the big three. I love what they're doing. Anything that people do with former players to keep them employed and to keep them known, keep them out there, keep them in the loop is a great movement. It's also afforded players the opportunity, former players the opportunity to coach as well, if they're beyond their playing years. And so, sometimes players get stuck and they really don't know what path they want to lead, so, this is a great opportunity. So when I heard, and then when I saw the video of Ice Cube saying that, Adam Silver and Mark Tatum were sabotaging the big three, and why would they sabotage the first black up and running owned league right now, basketball league. And so, we talked about it off the cuff. So, Dom, you had some great points, and could you elaborate on it?
Yeah, absolutely, Goody. I mean, like yourself, I'm a big three fan. I love what they've done, to incorporate not only some of the fundamentals of basketball in what they do. Not a lot gets said about what the big three does in every community that they visit. Every single city that they visit during the summertime, they hold a giant clinic. Doesn't get enough press to me. A lot of those guys like Michael Beasley, Hollis Thomas, Mario Chalmers, my guy Julian Wright, those guys go into communities of those cities, and they do really great work while they're there. On the business side of things, I'm a little miffed at Cube and calling out Silver, calling out Tatum, directly for sabotaging the Big Three league. When in essence, there was some background dealings where the Big Three wanted some licensing deals with the NBA to attach to their league to draw more fans, to draw more interest. They've done great on their own, but the background fighting of, licensing and, media rights and licensing rights, even those old highlight clips and things that they would love to have in their intros and love to show, you got to pay for those things. And, there's this kind of little cat and mouse game, the back and forth. I didn't like the whole social media thing, by Cube, and that's my guy. He's a great dude. He does a lot for the youth and the inner cities, and kind of those things. I just kind of wish those type of things, they need to stay off of social media. Pick up the phone. As you and I know, Goody, Tatum is accessible. Mark is a great dude. Adam Silver, when you can get a hold of him, fantastic to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was, it was mixed feelings. I was like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? You have someone who has, who's powerful beyond belief, which is Ice Cube, and his word is immeasurable. And so to make those types of statements are bold statements. But sometimes when things happen, people have legitimate feelings. So that's not to discredit anything that he says, but you know, to you know, for myself, and all of the community work that I've done, from junior MBA to top 100, to the leadership programs, to all these different programs where I'm constantly around those two people. Those are strong statements to make. And so, I'm not here to even dead it, because there's two sides to every story. But I hope that they can come together and sit down and squash this, because like I said, Ice Cube's word is immeasurable. And Adam Silver and Mark Tatum have a reputation that is also immeasurable. And so we have to, being that, we need to come together and figure out how we can make this work. because just because you sit down at the table one time, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to come up with a deal the first time. You know, people make mistakes. Let's come back to the table and fix that and see where we can come up, and let's make sense and not ask each other to do things that, the other one can't really do, but I know if they do come together, I mean, it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we can they can you know what, Goody, I can say this. I don't know if you guys recognize what's kind of coming back, but the kids are coming back outside. Outside events are happening a little bit more since we're kind of done with the pandemic. And
Yeah.
shout out to my guys over at N1. They're putting out a bunch of open runs. You remember that back in the early 2000s, how big street ball had become and how big it had gotten. If the NBA and the Big Three collab, they can easily bring back. You remember Hoop It Up, the NBA sponsored 3-on-3 tournament. How big was that?
Yeah, absolutely. But allow for I still would like for the Big Three to allow to have, to have the concept that they have and not turn it into hoopla, because it really is competition. And they could use the audience, and they could use the audience that the NBA will provide. We're a part of all one big family,
Yeah.
from the WNBA to the NBA to the Harlem Globetrotters to the ABL. We got, there's room for more. So, add the big three right in there, because, it consists of, excuse me, and is made up of all former players anyhow. So I'm an advocate for it, definitely. And leading up into the next thing, onto the WNBA, okay? Where this week, I know Dom's going to be happy with this. Ryan Howard drops
My
43
girl.
bombs, 43 bombs, grabs 12 boards, and sugarcoats it with 4 assists and 2 blocks. So, you know what? Her sophomore blues are now officially over, because she put it out there. The Aces can't win 10 in a row. Thank you, Dallas Wings, for knocking them off. You got Agumba Wale and that crew out there. They're balling, they're young, they understand the assignment. They got a new and hungry coach over there. And they're making moves over there and making noise over there for sure. In the West, the Aces are sitting up on top 6-2, 16-2, but that doesn't mean anything, as you can see. When you get to the playoffs, all it takes is one bad loss and you're gone, right? The Wings are 9-9. The Lynx, remember how I talked about them? I was saying they're not going to stay down. They are now in third, 9-9. All right. The Sparks, 7-11. Make me want a Slurpee. Storm, told you, completely out, 4-14. The Mercury, 3-14. They straight qualify for the first round draft pick, number 1 draft pick, and they shouldn't even put a lottery ball in there for that. Don't even put a lottery ball in there for that. Just give it to them. They need some rebuilding. We're used to that team being on top. So let's go. Let's rebuild them. However, we got to get them going. They got a new interim. So things are still not. Things are still up in the air when it's interim. God bless her. Hopefully she wins. Then you got the East. You got the Libs sitting on top, 13-4. All right. What happened to the Sun? They're now 13-5. I was saying, can they hold on out there in the East? Mystics, stay like staying in third. I tell you, boy, something about third for them. They're 10-7. You got the Dream in fourth place. Can they knock? Can they? They knocking on the door. 9-8. The sky fell off. 8-10. They took a lot of hits, and then you got the Fever. Fever they doing bad too. Okay. It's like 5-13, new squad, playing as hard as they possibly can, but they need a franchise player over there. And that's the reason why we need to expand, so that this way more of the greats can be expanded throughout the league, and play in front of their home favorites. So what do you guys think about the WNBA this week?
Uh, go, go ahead, Don.
My Atlanta Dream, we coming. I keep telling everybody to watch out. Once the Liberty and the Aces are done with their Celtics versus Lakers, NBA counterpart series for the next 3 years. Once that's done, it's the Atlanta Dreams League.
Oh,
Back it up.
oh, big
It's
statements.
their league.
Big
Why?
Lacey
statements.
Hall. She just came. Hey, everybody was like, hey, where did she come from? 20 points out of nowhere. She did the same thing at Stanford. They got some hoopers, and it's gonna
Lacey Hull.
continue. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm big on Lacey Hull. I'm big on Lacey Hull. A lot of people like, what? You like Lacey Hull? I like Lacey Hull because she a big guard.
Yeah,
She's
Lexi
gonna
is
step out. She's gonna
nice.
hit the
Yeah.
three. She can come and play the short game. She can get all the way to the cup. She's gonna defend. She had a monster block on Stewie in the beginning of the season. And so everything about this kid, she's got the heart. I don't want to say a tree because that's Stanford's logo. you know. But the kid's got a heart. I got the heart of a lion, and I love her. But for real,
Goody,
you
let
got to
me
come with
ask
some
you
more with
this.
Green.
To break things up, the big news of, Brianna Stewart and Natasha over there creating the Unrivaled League, the WNBA's, or not the WNBA's, but the Unrivaled League, which is going to be a 3-on-3 and a 1-on-1 league, so that players can stay home and they don't have to go overseas. Now, I haven't made the proper calls to see who's behind everything, but apparently there's enough dough and enough investors in this thing where it's going to be around for a while. What's your take on that? Being, a former player, if when you played, if something like that was available, would you have definitely took it?
I mean, I don't know. I'm a 5-on-5 type of gal, but that still doesn't get you out of predicting that the dream. You don't get to go to some like, oh, we gonna have a no. You gotta back. You feel me? You feel me there?
He forgot the Aces is going to still be in the
You
league,
know what I'm
right?
saying? Where you come from down south, and you living up north with a statement like that. And then you go to, oh, what do you think about the 1-on-1, 2-on? Man, you better come with something better than that, fam.
But I mean, Dom alluded to something I wanted to kind of address because, well, Goody, you did too, far as another franchise player or a franchise player in Indiana, which expansion is needed, maybe, right? But how do you think? Well, Gabby Williams made a statement this week, right? She came back for her first game this week with Seattle. But she said, had she not got concussed in her European league, she wouldn't be able to play, which, the WNBA has that rule that you have to be back by May 10th or something. Or else you're done for the season. So does that truly help or hurt the league? I wanted your take on that.
Well, I mean, prior to signing the contract, you already know whether you're going to be in violation or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I can't sit and go, oh, I'm going to side for the player in that because it was the player that signed the contract. So, if you want to play overseas and you want to play in the league as well, then your contract needs to be over.
Okay. So then
you can come and you can play at home, unless you have a clause in your contract that states that you're going to play overseas, you're going to play out the term, and then you're going to be here when you get here. I mean, and so I don't know how many players have that kind of clause in their in their contracts, maybe none. But like I said, you're the person who signs the contract. You see the contract. You know what the terms of the contract are and when it begins and when it ends. So if you know that the league is starting on May 10th and then you go to May 12th, then it's on you. Unless you establish that with your team prior to, hey, listen, I'm going to be 2 days late for training camp. Is that okay? Yeah, sure, it's okay. You're coming in shape. It shouldn't be a problem, but you have to be good communicators. But if they say no, then no means no. And then you have to, if that team wants you that bad, then they know that come that day, it's it.
Did he well, to back that up, let me ask you, both of y'all, do you think that's just bad representation? Because a lot of these players sometimes, they don't look at the contract. It's my agent told me. My agent told me. I can't tell you how many kids give me a call that are overseas and they're locked into a bad deal, or they want to come back home and the first thing out of their mouth is my agent told me. I always say, hey, did you read your contract? Did you follow up with this person? Did you follow up with that person? And the answer is, with some of these young players, it's always my agent told me. So do you think that was kind of just bad representation?
No, I don't think it's bad representation at all. I think that, you have to stay woke. There's enough out here that's telling you to stay woke. You're on the internet. You know about the NCAA. You know about agents that are out here. You just have to do the work. And it's all about, following the breadcrumbs, asking questions, and understanding where you are. You have to understand where you are. And if you don't, then, that's on you. It's always going to fall back on the individual. It's never going to be, oh, well, the agent this and the agent that. And so this is the reason why when I'm training kids, don't leave that woman alone. When they say, oh, my mom, leave that woman out of this.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Accountability.
You have accountability. You are responsible for certain things as a student athlete, and you got to understand where you're going, and you got to study where you're going. Don't sit here and talk to me about how you want to go to Duke, and you don't even know any of the players on the team, or who you're gonna follow, whose footsteps you're following in, or the history of the school. Or you say you want to play in the WNBA, and you don't know even not one player, and you can't even call out a former WNBA player unless it's Sue Bird, who just recently left. So it's like you have to do the homework. And if you don't do the homework, it is what it is, And you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind. I'm sitting here, chopping it up with my guys, Don Dada, Wilfred and nephew, Vid Lamonte, excuse my voice. I trained 15, no, it was like 18 boys the other day. And, so you understand how my voice is gone from the other day, just working them out. Guys and girls are totally different, totally different working out. Girls, you say it once or twice, you good. Guys, you over there saying it 50,000 times. Mm-hmm. So you got to break up a lot of ruckus, but it's all good. And as we wind down and we close down, I want to, just take a moment to say, peaceful journey to one of my greatest competitors. Man, in the W.N.B.A. and in the American Basketball League, and we never met on the college level. I was a few years ahead of her. First encountered her in ABL, and then from there we were constant competitors. From there, USA basketball and all the in between. I can tell you one thing. I ask the Lord right now that her soul may continue on with its journey, because it is obviously not the end. It may be the end for us here. So like I said, rest in peace to Nikki McCray. WNBA, USA Basketball, ABL, Tennessee standout great. You will be sorely missed. And to anybody who's listening right now, just a moment of silence. Amen, Lord. Bringing it back to the now. We're going to keep this basketball thing moving as she would have. Okay. And, lots of tournaments coming up July 22nd and on July 29th. Got off-season training in the morning. And then after that, it is an all-day tournament. 4 boys teams, 4 girls teams called the Gauntlet here in Chesapeake. So stay tuned for Hoop Madness coming at you. Sammy Sosa, and to my boys, you have the greatest Sunday ever. All right. Kiss them babies. And you know that God loves you. Sammy Sosa. Peace.